is Rick Hidalgo, and this is where we make sense out of the news. And that's quite an accomplishment, by the way, because so much of the news is just not even applicable to the ecclesia. I mean, let's think about it for a second. We talk about news that say comes out of the Supreme Court. Well, do you even know constitutionally how the Supreme Court's supposed to operate and what purview it has? It really has no direct influence on anything having to do with our individual liberties. It's a settlement mechanism between branches of government, legitimate government, which we don't have. So, then you got news that coming out about, public schools and CRT and all these kind of things. They're totally not applicable to the ecclesia because we're supposed to be building our own infrastructure. We were actually commanded to do so a long, long time ago when Jesus was given authority over all of heaven and earth. That was the point that we were supposed to start building an ecclesia infrastructure. And yes, we've been under attack for that long. And, I think part of the attack is from the inside. I think our seminaries and our institutions of learning teach us a particular mode of thinking that isn't conducive to building ecclesia infrastructure, but rather conducive to breaking us down and, alienating one worshiping flock from another worshiping flock, and, just focused on, the infrastructure of the 501c3, which is more like choir robes and, pews, and making sure that, those people who founded the church get their names on the pews, and what color is the carpet going to be? Blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, split the church over it. These things that are inconsequential in the end. In the end, they don't matter. They don't matter at all. And we have no infrastructure. We believed that the United States was the ecclesia, and I believe originally it was intended to be. And so we handed over all of our mechanisms and authorities to the United States to do those things for us as the ecclesia, because we're a nation founded on God, right? And that's not the way it worked out, because we found out that the United States is a corruptible institution. It's something that we've got to stay on top of. It turned into a Babylonian system, and here we go. We are now literally having to come out of Babylon, separate ourselves from it, build an even greater infrastructure outside of Babylon, and that's where we are. So when we start talking about these news segments, it's very difficult to bring it to a place within the ecclesia mindset, because it's like these things really, at the end of the day, they're not applicable to us. So today I picked out some news of the day that is going to be applicable to us, not as the headline dictates, but applicable to us in a different way. So let's get started. First, before we go, I want to remind everybody that a lot of our articles that we get that we talk about on this particular program, on this news segment, is from the Epic Times. So I want to give them a moment and a spot to deliver their message. So here's the Epic Times. Are you tired of fake news and cancel culture? Me too. Stay informed and stay free by subscribing to the only paper that I read, the Epic Times. Subscribe today and get the Epic Times for just $1 the first month. Yes, that's right, just $1 the first month. And because you're a listener of the C2K Report, you'll get a discounted monthly subscription of just $77. Not the $99 that everybody else has to pay, but the $77 that you as a C2K listener get to have. So simply use the promo code C2K to enjoy the lowest rate available. Go to C2KReport.com, click on the Epic Times logo on our homepage, and it'll bring you here. Simply enter the promo code C2K to enjoy the lowest savings ever. Thank you, Epic Times, for partnering with the C2K Report. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with today is this article here. Disney CEO Bob Chapek should resign or be fired. Florida businessman. Well, let's not talk about whether he should be fired or not. That's inconsequential. It's not going to affect Babylon. If he's fired, they're just going to replace him with another Babylonian-minded person. Why? Because we've all been trained to be Babylonian-minded. So that's neither here nor there. The more important thing is this. Let's talk about the fact that Disney was literally running itself as a separate government. It had self-governing rights. Now, that's really scary when a corporation has self-governing rights. Corporations are fictions, and since they're fictions and can be corrupted, a corporation itself should never have self-governing rights. And actually, even a de jure government, even a truthful government, even if we had a republic back, it in itself should never be able to govern itself. It's up to we the people to govern ourselves and tell that that government, whether it's de jure or de facto, what it is that we want, because it really is about us. It's about we the people and what we want, okay? And there can be differing opinions about some things, but if it has to do with life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness, and by happiness, you can't affect somebody else's happiness, okay? So it's not like, you can say, well, pro-abortion, that's happiness, because you're, as a woman, I want to be able to get rid of this parasite. That's the way they look at it, as a parasite, which is like ridiculous. But you're actually invoking, you're actually annihilating a life and a potential life, and I think it's pretty obvious that that's something that just can't be stood for in a Republican form of government. So that's kind of a non-starter. But let's talk about this Disney situation. That corporations should not be self-governing. People are self-governing. So if you have a CEO of a company that's a self-governing individual, and that self-governing individual is doing a particular thing. Okay, let's say Disney, it's known as an entertainment company. Let's say it in its purest form, right? It's an entertainment company. Well, okay, so entertain, but entertain in such a way that you're not affecting the life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness of others, okay? And when you do these woke things, like that sign says, go woke, go broke, when you do these woke things, you're actually affecting the lives of other people. You're actually affecting their pursuit of happiness, their ability to pursue happiness. Because, happiness doesn't come from your personal ideology and being able to overcome the things, that culture dictates. And culture has to come from some place of rational law, So we have to agree on something, and the first thing we have to agree on is that we're here for a purpose, and that purpose isn't to progressively walk away from whoever it was that created us and put us here, okay? Which is what's actually happening. These progressives are walking away from what we were put here to do. Our intent, or His intent, the intent of our Creator. We, as these progressives, are slowly walking away from those things, and that's a non-starter. You can't go there. You can't start there. We have to determine, how do we do things in such a way where it doesn't affect people's life, liberty, or happiness, but at the same time, there's a foundation. There's a foundation that's set, and all of us can be happy in a system where we're not hurting each other, or the system itself doesn't hurt the people. Because it's delegated us people as slaves or as chattel, which this Babylonian system has done. I mean, it's non-debatable at this point, especially the bar. The system of the bar has absolutely taken law and flipped it on its head. It's irrational at best. So that's that's a good conversation piece that we need to have. Let's talk about self-governing as individuals, and let's talk about how that applies to a corporation. So if you're a self-governing individual and you have a calling or a desire, whatever it is, I mean, I'm not expecting everybody to be, in Christ. Okay, there's going to be those who don't choose to be in Christ. They're going to be sojourners, okay, throughout this life. And the people who are sojourners, I do expect, though, that they're going to go through life without hurting other people. Okay, and if they hurt other people, then we, the people, need to come against them and, put them away, right? Kick them out of our culture or whatever is right for that particular situation. And we do that through our juries and our grand juries of the people. Okay, so it's a very simple thing. But how does that apply to the corporation that the person is running? He's called, or he has a desire to put together this great entertainment apparatus. I think that's great. We need to be entertained. Entertaining is something we can get away from kind of the mundaneness of our life sometimes. Watch a football game, or do something. Go to a theme park and enjoy ourselves for a day. Shake the hand of a huge mouse. Those are things that we want to do in our culture, and there's really nothing wrong with those things. But we've got to have this conversation about how far is too far, how much authority or liberty do we give a corporation, because I think it's got to start with the self-governing of the individual who's at the top of that corporation, and then it's got to extend to, that corporation doesn't have the same liberties. Today, fictions have the same liberties as real men and women, and we've got to take that away. That's got to go. Because we can't allow fictions which separate the liability away from the man. Because these CEOs can do anything that they want to, just about, without consequence, and all they got to do is resign, and then nothing else comes of it. And that's just totally wrong. That's not how a culture needs to be run. That's not the way a nation needs to be run. So anyway, take it or leave it. That's the conversation. That's where I wanted to take this Disney CEO situation, and I hope that makes sense to you. Let's go to the next piece here. I want to show you guys something that came out the other day, and I didn't miss it. It's just that I keep forgetting to play it. And this is the actual recording, so listen to this.
Announcing 3 actions that the department is taking to advance environmental justice. First, consistent with the President's executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad, we are issuing a comprehensive environmental justice enforcement strategy. Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta will discuss that strategy in just a moment. Second, I'm pleased to announce that we are launching the Justice Department's first ever Office of Environmental Justice to oversee and help guide the Justice Department's wide-ranging environmental justice efforts. Like all parts of government, it will get its own acronym, OEJ. And third, the Justice Department is issuing an interim final rule that will restore the use of an important law enforcement tool, supplemental environmental projects, subject to new guidelines and limitations that I will also be issuing today. Administrator Regan and I know that the communities most impacted by environmental harm are not isolated in any one part of our country. Environmental crime and injustice touch communities in all our cities, towns, rural areas, and on tribal land.
Okay, so I'm sure that you heard that, right? Environmental Justice Department. So let's deal with the big elephant in the room. Who was given the duty as far as God? Okay, who was given the duty to have dominion over creation? Who was given a duty to be steward over creation? Was it fictional government? Was it the Babylonian system? Or was it the ecclesia? Was Adam a Babylonian system? Was Adam even a de jure government? Or was he a man who was created in the image of God, who was given the stewardship over creation? Obviously, there have to be rules as far as, how we affect the environment, because again, in order for us to be able to pursue happiness, there has to be an environment there for us to pursue the happiness. So we can't just arbitrarily just say, you know what, it doesn't matter, we can dump oil here and we can do this. We've got to be as clean as we possibly can be. But what we don't need is the hand of Babylon on top of us saying, you must pray 5 times a day. You must pray to the east. You must pray to the west. You must do this and you must do that. And if you don't do it this way, we're going to penalize you and possibly throw you in jail, throw you to the lions because you broke our rule. Okay. We don't need a big brother looking over us. We need communities that do things that make sense. We need communities to work together to build an infrastructure that doesn't harm the environment and obviously doesn't harm humanity, because that's what this is all about. Okay. But Environmental Justice Department, we all know what that's going to be. It's going to be the heavy hand of Babylon. And the heavy hand of Babylon is going to literally work through OSHA and other parts of the Babylonian system to affect the way you and I experience the environment and experience life. That's how it's going to happen. And it's going to hit us in ways that we don't expect. I mean, it could hit us at work. I'm a retail meat cutter. Right? It could hit me in a really impacting way, just by the fact that I work for a company that's registered in Babylon, who has to do certain things because they've agreed to the terms and conditions of Babylon in order to have a license to do what they do. Okay, so I could see the Animal Industry Board here in South Dakota being directly infected. In fact, that's a good word. Impacted by the Environmental Justice Department. So that's in my opinion, that's a very, very bad thing. And we need the ecclesia. Again, this is how it relates to us. All of that's really kind of garbage, because where it relates to us is we must stand up. We must separate ourselves from Babylon, come out of her, and we must establish our own environmental situation. We've got to be conscious of the fact that, we cannot harm the environment because we need it there for our kids and our kids' kids. How do you leave an inheritance to your children's children if you've destroyed the earth to the point where an inheritance is moot? Okay? So we've got to address that, and we've got to address it outside of the heavy hand of Babylon. Now, thankfully, at the C2K Report, we teach things like authentication and self-governance and how to not just avoid Babylon, but to counter Babylon when they send their presumptions or assumptions our way. So, that's cool. Let's go into our get a word from our second sponsor. Our second sponsor is QE Strong pain patch. Awesome thing. Check this out. Are you in pain? I am. I cut meat for a living, and as a meat man, I have a really sore thumb on my cutting hand. I recently went to a conference where I was introduced to a pain patch that I fell in love with. QE Strong has a line of incredible products that relieve pain. The special patches emanate a frequency that is scientifically proven to bring fast pain relief. I know it works because I use it. To get some of these patches, go to www.c2kreport.com and click on the QE Strong box on the homepage. Click on the QE Strong box on our homepage. Then click the check availability button and order a few boxes of skin patches today. Order some for yourself and order some to give away to your neighbors. Thank you, QE Strong, for partnering with the C2K Report. Okay, everybody, listen, the next thing I wanted to get into has to do with this Army officer here, okay? So, lo and behold, Army officer convicted for disobeying COVID-19 rules speaks out. Now, I'm not going to get into the article because, again, the article has things in it that might be true within the Babylonian narrative, but we have to debate this from a ecclesiastical perspective. So the perspective of the ecclesia when it comes to Army officers is that we have this thing called national security, okay? And the thing about an Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, these kind of things, National Guard, these kind of things are meant to protect our freedoms, our liberties, our ability to pursue happiness. And when you affect those who guard those freedoms, you affect us. Now, so anybody who wears green, okay, and I'm using green arbitrarily because I know some of them wear blue and, the different colors. But when you affect the green guys, you affect us. So, we've got to start looking at this thing a little bit differently. In fact, as the ecclesia, we need to start addressing the armed forces for ourselves. We need to stop allowing Babylon to be the only ones who communicate with the armed forces, because they do work for us. Yes, they may, in a time of war, work for Babylon because they're contracted in that way, okay, through different contracts like selective service and all kinds of crazy things that we won't even go into. But they have contracted. Most of the branches have contracted, but they still belong to us. They still are there to protect us, and we need to be communicating with these armed forces, okay, as the ecclesia. And we've got some conversations we need to have concerning that. But when an Army officer is convicted of disobeying COVID-19 rules, meaning he decided not to take he decided not to take the jab, okay, because he believed that it could affect his health. That's a direct attack against we the people. That's a direct attack against the ecclesia. And we cannot stand for this. Okay? We absolutely cannot stand for this. So, take it or leave it. That's where that conversation goes. Now, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you guys today. We are living in times of Babylonian desperation, and no one knows what pestilence will be released next. But it's not a time to fear. God's healers are stepping up to the plate all over the earth. There is no better example than Dr. Zelenko's protocol. Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack is proven to maintain your immune system and keep it resilient and resistant. Go to C2KReport.com and click the Z-Stack logo to join the thousands of people building a resilient and resistant immune system. Save 5% by entering coupon code C2K at checkout. Thank you, Dr. Zelenko, for partnering with C2K. And it's this one. Okay, so there's another article from the Epic Times. As you can tell, I love the Epic Times. They've got some great articles. But this one, okay, we need to have a really focused conversation. What is this thing about returning more power to states is the path for America, says Mark Meckler. Mr. Meckler, okay, the power has never left the states. The states are where the people live. The states are where the people hold their duty and their allegiance. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, because I know this personally, I had one of my children just go to the state to get a photo ID, and because they didn't have a social security number, they got what was called a federal non-compliant ID, and it only lasts for 30 days. The problem here, Mr. Meckler, is not that the power needs to return to the states. The problem here is that the people in the states have allowed the states to federalize. And we have got to come back to a place where we, as the original ecclesia, the real we the people, we've got to rise up and we've got to say no more federal compliance. You are a state first, and your contract with the federal system is a whole separate issue, and it's very limited. Okay, reciprocity, that kind of thing. Other than that, very limited. So there's that. Okay, and that's extremely important, because I ought to be able to go to the state that I live in as a South Dakotan. I should be able to go into the state DMV, and I should be able to get a South Dakota identification card that's strictly state issued. Okay? State issued. But I can't. And when I do, like in the case of my daughter, who did, get one, and I could show you the card, but I don't want to give away the information because there's trolls that like the docs around here. But it literally says, not for federal use. And on the back it says non-compliant, federal or non-compliant identification card. Okay? And it's literally issued for 30 days. So, if I federally comply, I get a little gold star on the top of my identification card. All right? And that gold star being up there, that thing lasts for 5 years. For 5 years, I have an identification card until I have to pay again. If my daughter, who doesn't have the gold star because she's not federally compliant, if she wants to keep that ID card for the state, you know what she has to do? She has to go and pay every 30 days the full amount to get another ID card. Another ID card every month. $30, $30, $30 every month. Now, you tell me that that's reasonable. You tell me that our states have any authority whatsoever anymore. They have literally given it away. So this guy's right when he's talking about returning power. But we don't want to return power to Babylonian states. We want to return power to the people so that the people can actually create a state that's relevant again. Because our states aren't relevant. Our states are all federalized. So we need to get over ourselves, and we need to start understanding that we have been federalized, and we've got to take back our local situation. And the way to do that is for every house to self-govern, come together in treaty, and bring representation that way, not into a Babylonian system, but into a new system that actually respects the wish of the most powerful organization, and that is the local house. If a representative offends a local house, we need to have a quick, quiet, and easy impeachment system that we can say, you, get out of there right now, and now we're going to replace you with a vote on the next time we meet. And we should be meeting often, by the way. If nothing else, just to break bread with one another so that we can remain, together. So, anyway, that's that. And so I hope that this news segment has been good for you. I hope that you have gained some understanding through this news segment. I hope that the C2K News is becoming relevant to you. If you like this kind of newscast, and better than the first two that I did, then tell me. Just put it down in the comments. Tell me you like it when I start to editorialize the way that I have. Okay, because I kind of like this better because it's actually relevant to the ecclesia. Reading a news article about Babylon, giving credit to Babylon, and even actually authorizing Babylon, that's bull honky. I can't do that. This is about the ecclesia. This is about the ecclesia rising up, getting out of Babylon, and becoming our own infrastructure. Okay? God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again tomorrow.